So in the previous section, we finally implemented continuous integration so that there is some communication between GitHub and App Center and even the other way around. So that meant that as soon as we create new pull requests and even commit new changes to that specific pull request, App Center in both of the applications, iOS and Android, was going to start a new build. And we saw that in our case, at least so far on the dev branch, there are some builds that get executed immediately as soon as those commits happen. And you may have seen how I had a bit of an issue there with my builds getting cancelled immediately on Android. Actually, just the day after that, App Center started displaying this message that some builds are getting cancelled unexpectedly. I was actually able to solve it by recreating the Android app directly from GitHub, just as we did in the previous section. So in case you ever experienced that, maybe that can help you as well. But anyway, these builds were triggered immediately here on App Center, and that communicated back some information to GitHub in the form of checks. So we now were able to use these checks also as some additional branch protection rules that are not enforced right here on my dev branch, as you can see in here. By the way, all of the tests have passed and I can easily merge this pull request, but this branch in particular does not contain those protection rules. The test branch, however, does contain them. So throughout this lecture, I am going to merge all of these changes, of course, right here first on the dev branch, which I haven't done so far. But then I am going to merge dev into test, which of course is going to happen through a pull request. It's going to trigger new builds, this time over on test, where so far I have no builds here on Android, and I think one build on iOS that we performed as a test previously with a pull request that we created. But the idea here is that all of this is going to be, of course, pulled over to our local repository. And on our local repository, we are going to be preparing our projects so we can start adding some tests, which is the entire purpose of this section. So let me go ahead and do that. Right here on this pull request, first of all, I am going to merge everything and confirm the merge from feature 6 over to dev, which means that I can delete feature 6 now. And so if I navigate back to pull requests, I see nothing else for the dev branch. I know that this one that is still opened is actually a merge from dev to test. And you can see how a new commit has been added all the way down as this merge from number 7 that has just happened and that has actually triggered the continuous integration process. And here is where we see an actual branch protection. Now, as always, as an administrator, I can do whatever I want with this repository, and it says that I can still merge this pull request, but I see this button like in red, big red button, letting me know that I probably shouldn't do that just yet because tests haven't passed. They are currently in progress. And I can take a look at them as well over on the checks tab, and I can see both the Android and the iOS tests in progress. And they are, of course, also being listed over here on App Center. Now in here, in this case, I see two builds. The first one is happening on the dev branch because there is a new commit inside of the dev branch. This merge that happened from feature 6. This one is actually a different kind of build, and we've briefly seen this in the previous section, but the one that is important right now is the one that is happening in test, because a new commit was added to the pull request, as we saw over here. This build was triggered, and this is the iOS application, but we would see exactly the same thing on the Android application. So we see that in this case, dev has just been built. And if you select this one, you can actually see that this is an automatic build, slightly different to this pull request build. And over here on the test, we also see one build that is currently executing. So if we navigate back to the checks, we will see these being updated as soon as those builds succeed or fail. For example, right now the Android application has successfully built, so I see that half of my tests or half of the checks have passed in here, now only waiting for the iOS build. As soon as it builds or fails, we will see if we can merge this pull request into test. And there we go, all of my checks have passed, and I can expand the details in here to see that both were successful. I could even navigate to the details of each one, which just navigates me back to the checks tab. And from here we could even view more details for this particular build over on App Center. So great, everything is ready to be merged into test. Let me go ahead and execute the merge then. And once everything is in both of these branches, of course this one should not be deleted. The dev branch is one of the important branches. But once this is already on the test branch, what I will do is go over to the terminal and get all of those new changes. Now currently I am on feature 6, which has already been deleted from the remote. So what I will do is execute a git checkout command over to dev, and once I am on dev, I can execute a git branch -D and pass feature 6. So I am actually going to be deleting feature 6. And now what I want to do is get all of the new commits, all of the updates to the dev and to the test branch here locally. So for that, because dev and test are already tracking a remote branch, all I have to do is from dev execute git pull, and it goes ahead and gets everything from the remote, and then check out over to test and do exactly the same thing. Execute git pull. No need to specify from where because they already know which remote branch they are tracking. Now let me go back to the dev branch. From the dev branch, what we want to do, and remember that even though we're going to be working a little bit more with the test branch, everything should begin from a feature branch onto a dev branch and onto the test branch. So what I want to do from here is prepare my projects for testing. So as always, I will come to dev and execute git checkout -B with the B flag, so I am going to be creating a new feature branch. Now to know exactly what number I'm going to give this, I am going to navigate back to GitHub, over to the issues, and by the way, this issue can be now closed because we have already implemented this feature, so I can navigate down to close the issue. And I am going to be creating a new issue. This is going to be prepare for tests. I'm going to assign it to myself, and I'm going to assign a label as well, and I'm going to submit the new issue. This is going to have an ID of 8. So that 8 is the one that I am going to use in here. My new feature branch then is going to be called feature 8, and I am already on feature 8. So what I will do is navigate over to Visual Studio. We're over here in the Solution Explorer. I can double check that indeed I am on feature 8. Here is where I want to start preparing everything for tests. And that is actually going to be very straightforward. What I will do is right-click on the solution and add a new project. Inside of multi-platform and under tests, you're going to find a UI test tab option. If you're on Windows, you can actually search for a template that is called very similarly. In fact, I believe it is called exactly the same. So, selecting this template, and of course,